All right, let's go ahead and get started. I want you to come on in and have a virtual seat. My name is Brian Oles. I am the founder of Black Speakers Network, and I am very excited to welcome you to this conversation. We are here talking about a focus on the health of Black men. This is a virtual conversation that's being presented by the Maryland Health Connection. And so, if you are watching live, go ahead and give us a hello and let us know that you're here. If you're watching a replay, we got love for you too. So just go ahead and get ready and have a seat. And guess what? We want as many people as possible to get access to this. We are streaming live right now on the Afro Facebook page. And so if you're watching live now, this is the time to share this information out. I want you to tag a Black man that you care about. If he's not on Facebook, tag his wife, tag his family, make sure that we get as many people as possible watching this. And even if you're watching a replay, just go ahead and grab that link to the Facebook page and share that out as well, because with the conversation that we're diving into this evening, you might just be responsible for saving a life. And so, really excited to get into this conversation. As a Black man myself, this is a very critical time to be able to talk about healthcare as well as access to healthcare and really make sure that we are looking out for ourselves and looking out for each other. We have a distinguished panel of Black men that I cannot wait to introduce you to. They are representing a wide spectrum of experience, and they are going to be here to drive this conversation on the health of Black men. And so now, one of the things, I'm not sure if you realize this, but Black men in the United States, we're in a little bit of trouble. We are suffering worse off health wise than any other racial group in America. We have the lowest life expectancy and unfortunately the highest death rate for specific causes compared from both men and women of other ethnic groups. And so I am so excited that we have an opportunity to have a vulnerable forum like this to be able to discuss these issues. And so our conversation today, we're really going to focus on 5 primary areas. We're going to be looking at the top critical healthcare challenges facing Black men in America today. So those include things like obesity, diabetes, stroke, heart disease, as well as cancer. We're going to be talking about the challenges with getting access to quality health care, particularly for Black men, as well as our families. We're going to be kind of breaking down some of the trends that are happening right now with combating medical health care misinformation that's online, trying to discern how do we get access to the right information, who do we listen to, who do we not listen to, which is very, very challenging in 2021. We're going to be diving into mental health, which is sometimes one of those topics that gets pushed to the back burner, but addressing the stigma of mental health, particularly with Black men and Black families. And then finally, we're going to be talking about the importance of the open enrollment period that's coming up here in Maryland and what you need to do to take advantage of that. And so we have a lot to get into, and I know we are ready to get started. We have a panel that's in the back that are excited to come up and share their expertise. And so I'm going to be doing kind of an abbreviated introduction of these incredible individuals. If I went into their full bio, we would be here for the rest of the night. So we're not going to do that because I want to leave as much time as possible to get into this conversation, as well as to answer some of the questions that you may have for folks that are watching live. So I'm going to bring Kevin on in first, Mr. Kevin Peck, who's serving double duty. He's also the vice president of marketing here at the Afro. Mr. Impeccable himself is in the building. And so 100% appreciate you and of course the Afro for helping us get this presented this evening. And so Kevin, how are you doing today?
Good evening, good night. Somebody said good morning when they got on here. That's how the days and the seconds and the hours go. Well, no, we're a pleasure to be. I mean, it's a pleasure for the Afro to be a sponsor, and for me, as a Black man, to be on this panel. You know what I mean? I even put on something like I was going to work out or something. I'm thinking about it. I'm getting my mindset right to do something. You know what I mean? A jumping jack. 2 tomorrow, whatever it takes. But I'm here for the conversation, and man, I'm looking forward to the information that we're going to share as powerful Black men tonight on this panel.
Absolutely, absolutely. I'm so glad that you're here, my friend, and looking forward to it. Just so folks know a little bit about you, I mean, you've done a little bit of it all. Like you sold out world tours, you've done seven-figure endorsement deals, like television, film. You even are responsible for, the guys that we kind of all grew up listening to, Drew Hill, and really helping to provide a platform for so many talented individuals. And so I am looking forward to how you've been able to take that information and that background and parlay it to what we're doing here, the Afro. And I think, when you think about news organizations like the Afro, and we're talking about information later tonight, but we really need to have outlets like this that are putting out quality information so that we don't have to go digging for the truth. So appreciate the work that you're doing here, and looking forward to the conversation. So I want to bring in the next panelist. I don't, do we have Jonathan yet, or we do? Okay. If we do, bring Jonathan on in so we can.
Do we have Jonathan? I'm not sure.
Okay. If not, we could continue. Um, well, I'm gonna circle to Andrew next, and then let's go ahead and bring Andrew in now. Andrew is doing some really, really cool stuff. He is the CEO of Live Chair Health, which is a barbershop reservation app that piloted into healthcare. And Andrew, I know you have a powerful story that we'll get into about your father when his health began to decline, and that was the leading point of actually starting this incredible company. But I want to welcome you to the panel. How are you doing this evening?
Better than I deserve. It's a pleasure to be here amongst accomplished men, and just excited to be able to contribute some thoughts that I've learned in the field.
All right, all right. And I understand you're a former collegiate basketball player as well down at Claflin, right?
Yeah, HBCU, go Panthers. So
That's
Claflin
right.
University, located in Orangeburg, South Carolina. Love my alma mater. So yeah, I got a chance to play college basketball and do college life. So it was fun.
All right, all right. We're in good company, Kevin. I'm Morgan State University. We got Kevin, HBCU, Morgan
There we
State.
go. There we go.
So
Morgan
Representing.
State
yeah,
represent.
can't have a panel of black men and not get into it. So all right, well, let's go on to our next panelist because I know we got Jason Bass in the green room, and I'm excited to bring him out. I don't think you could be in Baltimore and not know this brother. Uh, and so he is the director of culture and impact at the Hotel Revival. And Jason, I know that you hold a lot of titles, man. Entrepreneur, community activist, father. And so I'm really excited to have you here at the panel. Jason has also spearheaded a really, really amazing concept here in the Baltimore area. It is called Night Brunch, and I don't know anybody who hasn't had an amazing experience at this thing. So when it comes to kind of bringing people together, breaking down social and racial silos, Jason, you have been the guy kind of on the front lines of this in Baltimore. So welcome to the panel. How you doing this evening?
I'm feeling great, man, and thank you for that introduction, Brian. I couldn't have gotten a better one, to be honest. I just hope that I live up to all of those titles, and make a difference out here.
Absolutely. You are doing it, brother. You are doing it. And so I see people chiming in that are watching live right now. Just saw hello from Ron. And so if you're watching live, we see you. Thank you. Continue to comment. And remember, invite people in because we are just about to get started with the conversation. And so let's bring on Quentin. Quentin is in the back, and super excited to have him join the panel. Look, when we told you, look, the Maryland Health Connection, Afro, we're not playing around. They're bringing the heavy hitters. And so Mr. Quentin is a celebrated wellness expert. He is a motivational speaker, and as Black Speaker Network, always excited to be around other speakers. And he has been very, very accomplished in this space. He's been recognized as one of 100 modern men of distinction by the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention for his contribution in raising awareness for mental health and suicide prevention. And so one of the things we mentioned earlier, Quentin, is that we really couldn't have a comprehensive conversation about Black men health without talking about mental health. And so I'm excited that you're here to help us kind of wade into that conversation as well. So how are you doing today?
I'm blessed. I'm grateful and honored and privileged and appreciative to be here amongst, a group and panel of incredible Black men. So, I'm excited to continue to do the work, so I'm appreciative.
Absolutely, man. Well, you're in great company, so I'm excited that you are here. And certainly, we also have Mr. Vernon Ambush sitting here in the back. So I'm going to bring him in. And Mr. Vernon is the Prince George's County, PG County Health Connect Outreach Specialist. And so earlier I mentioned that this session is brought to you by the Maryland Health Connection. And if you're not familiar, that is the official marketplace for Maryland individuals, families, and small business to shop, compare, and enroll in health and dental insurance plans. And I can speak from personal experience because I have, when I left my corporate job, Vernon, and a couple of years ago in 2019, I was out on the market for healthcare for the first time in 10 years. I had no idea what to do, no idea where to go. And the healthcare Health Connect, Maryland Health Connect was my first stop, and it was my last stop because I was able to get health and dental insurance. And I know you help people kind of navigate that process. So how are you doing today? Oh, you are muted, sir. Do me one more time. Click that unmute and give it a shot one more time.
Fine, Brian. I'm doing fine. I want to thank you for inviting me to sit on this panel. I'm excited about bringing my expertise to the panel about the Maryland Health Connection and how to get enrolled and how to get the most out of your enrollment. And when I first looked at this panel and when everybody showed up, I said, these guys could be my kids. So I'm excited about being with such a quality group of people and the energy that you're bringing. And I'm sure that the people that are listening can feel it.
Yeah. Well, I'm so glad that you're here. And having someone from the state and from the Maryland Health Connection is very, very powerful because I'm sure we're going to have some questions there. And it's a good segue, Vernon, because we want to let you know that this is meant to be a conversation. So if you do have questions, I already saw some starting to float through. Don't feel shy about putting those into the comments. There is no such thing as a bad question or a dumb question because we want to make sure that we get to it. And even if we don't have an opportunity to get to it at the if we don't get to it during the session, because we're streaming live, we'll be able to go back and connect. In addition to that, we want to let you know that we also have a representative from Maryland Health Connection that will be present in the chat to answer your healthcare specific questions. So if there's things that you really, really need to know from the healthcare perspective and you're in Maryland, if you're outside of Maryland, you can still listen, but can't help you. But if you're in Maryland, definitely make sure that you engage and get connected. Vernon, did you have something else to add?
Just wanted to add one thing. We were talking about HBCUs. This is Hampton over here.
HU?
Come through, HU. Let's go.
Way to represent. Way to represent. All right. So I am super excited. So let's go ahead and dive into this. And so the way we're going to conduct this panel as individuals, as I call out the questions, as we take questions from the audience, for my esteemed panelists, just let me know when you're ready to chime in. So I'll lob it out there. You can jump up in the air and grab it. So jumping into this conversation, right now, one of the things that we're kind of hyper focused on is the Big Five. And I mentioned some of those stats earlier. Of course, as a country, we're struggling. We're struggling a little bit with obesity, diabetes, stroke, heart disease, and cancer. Like these are things that are consistently just coming up, and it's not a new conversation. And so my question to anybody that wants to take it first is, what can we do / what should we be doing to reverse these alarming trends? Like, is there anything that you're seeing in your area, your neck of the woods, that we could be more proactive in kind of reversing some of these trends that we're seeing?
I guess I'll take it since you made the basketball reference as the former college basketball player. I think the number one thing is prioritizing health, because we believe at LiveChair Health that health is wealth. And there are studies that show the healthier you are, over the course of your life, you make, I think, 2 to 4 times more money. The healthier you are, the more energy you have. The more energy you have, the more productive you can be. So I think we need to budget and prioritize health into our schedule and not think that it's like drudgery and something that, I got to do, but we should look at it as joy, because the healthier we are, as I mentioned, they are financial and there are mental and physical benefits to it. I'll get into some of the scientific stuff later, but I think number one is like renewing our mind in terms of like why should we be concerned about our health? And there are financial and they are emotional, mental, and physical implications to it.
I think that is a great way to kick us off, Andrew. And I'm glad that you are bringing in those elements, because sometimes we could tend to look at these things in a silo and just think, oh, well, I'm just not going to do this. But, how many of us, live in inner city areas where there might be a food desert, or there really just had not been maybe quality access to education around the different options, and why, one of my favorite meals at Popeyes, even though it tastes really good and I can get it really quickly, may not be, what I want to eat like 5 days a week. And so there are all these different, but that may be what I can afford, right? So from a financial perspective, so I think there are the different silos that we can bring in. So I see a number of people ready to chime in. So I think I'm gonna go next to Jason. I'm gonna go to you, Jason, and then we will take it to Quentin.
So, growing up, I didn't have the best examples of what a diet should look like. Even when I had, even when I could access the food. So I remember there was a time, like it was Thanksgiving, and I went to a friend's house and they had like real cranberry sauce. And I had never seen that before. I had only seen cranberry sauce that came out of can. In fact, that's the only way I thought it came. You know what I mean? And I'm like, I'm 30 years old. I'm 41 now, about to be 42. Don't let the filters fool you. But it's like I see my father every year. I see my family every year pulling this can of cranberry sauce out and just letting this Jello slide out. And that was what it was. So when I first, found out that there was real cranberry sauce, I was intrigued by that. I was like, oh wow, there's not this like manufactured version. I'm gonna bring this into the. I'm gonna try to cook this myself. The recipe was easy. I made it. I brought it to the family. Everybody rejected it, and it was one of those moments where it was like I'm becoming the bougie guy of the house because I'm bringing the real version of something that this bad version is like it's doing us harm. And I kept exploring different ways, like different foods that we were accustomed to eating in our household, in our communities, that we're not even looking for a healthy replacement. We only want that bad thing, or we might not even know there's a healthy replacement. So there's a part of that kind of stuff I would love to explore at some point, because if you know me, food and beverage is kind of my life. I don't skip a meal. I probably won't skip a drink. There's just it's just a part of the whole thing. But learning how to like eat the right things and drink responsibly is something that I think is a big failure in our communities, man. We drink to get drunk. We don't drink, we don't drink always the best things. We don't have a lot of examples of what it looks like to have a social drinking experience, So I'm gonna fall back, but I'm gonna put those out there, and let people just think about that a little bit.
We definitely need to marinate on that, because you opened up something really, really important, which is these things are conditioned. Like we learn everything from the home, and so food choices. And I remember I was telling somebody the other day that I might have been 11 when I realized that there was a difference between a chicken nugget and a chicken McNugget. Like I thought like all chicken nuggets were chicken McNuggets because they came from like McDonald's. And like I'm definitely part of the Kool-Aid generation. I had another story where I was like, oh, I like cinnamon, and my friend was like, oh no, you like cinnamon sugar. I'm like, yeah, that's cinnamon. No, cinnamon sugar. Like there's a combination they sell it there. You could buy cinnamon not connected to sugar. I'm like, why would you do that? Like, I don't understand. So similar to your cranberry sauce story, I think all of us, Quentin, I'm coming to you next. We probably have so many examples of being just indoctrinated into this way of being and not knowing really anything different. And these things are almost like hardwired. Like by the time you get, I think we're all in like our 20s, 30s. And Vernon, by the way, I would love to, be adopted into the family. I eat a lot. So, just think about that before you make the invitation. But yes, Thanksgiving is around the corner. But these things are hardwired in, and it could be hard to break. And so I'm really glad that you brought that up, Jason. Quentin, I'm coming to you, my man.
Yeah, no, I think everything that was shared up to this point is extremely valid. But to really piggyback off of, what was just said, like, yes, it's intergenerational, right? And so often we look at, like, if you're a father and you're actually in the household with your children, we post on social like we're breaking the generational curse of being, like actually in the household and being parents and being fathers to our children. But we also have to accept that responsibility, right, from a nutritional perspective. Because these things are so hardwired, we have to break the generational curse and belief that we are put on this earth to be consumers of food, right? Like food was never designed to give us comfort, so to speak. It was there. It was really to give us sustenance, to feed our bodies and our minds and even our spirituality so that we could show up as our best selves, right? And so if we, like our bodies react, right, and hold on to certain calories and things like that, especially when you come into our community, because we live and have adopted genetically a scarcity, right, mindset. And because of that scarcity mindset, our bodies have also adapted to that. So every time we have access, we overconsume, right? And we also have to factor in that America perpetuates and supports the overconsumption, right? And so like as Black men, we are placed in food deserts or in environments where not only do we not have the proper economic resources, we don't have the proper educational resources, we don't have the proper, nutritional resources. And then, with depending on how healthcare is operating in the moment, right, then we're relying on a doctor to tell us, to diagnose us with something and then prescribe us the cure, when the reality is that the cure was always within us in the first place. It's in what we continue to allow ourselves to consume, right? And so as fathers, as men, as brothers, as uncles, as best friends, whatever, we have a responsibility to the next generation to breed something completely different. The same way that like my father was on heroin, so he wasn't in my life. I've chosen to be made the conscious decision, no matter how challenging or difficult it was. I made the conscious decision to be a father to my children. I also make the conscious decision to show them and teach them, the difference between being a consumer, right, and then consuming foods or eating foods for the betterment and sustainability of our health.
Man, this is a master class, Quentin, bro. You just broke down the entire like structure, and I think it's so important. Nikki says, "I am so missed it. I'm so happy to finally see us talk about this subject." Yes, absolutely, Nikki, and that's the reason why we are here. Quentin, 100% agreement. When you break down the historical context, and you're like, okay, what is the purpose of food? We've morphed that. I remember. It's so crazy going back to the movie theater now. And I was just reminded of some of these like jarring things. Like if you go to the movies and you request even like a small drink, I don't even know if they have small, they probably call it like a medium, but like a medium is like almost like a gallon of like soda. Like who needs that much soda? And then you go to Europe, talking about contrasting some of these things, it's actually illegal. Like you did there when you ask for a small, it's like when you ask for like a water cup, Jason, it's like one of them little, like that's a small, and then a medium is like this, and then a large is like our small here. So it's very much you're talking about some of the economic drivers and the factors that kind of go into this. And again, I love hearing you talk about, hey, here was my family situation, and then going back to what Jason was saying, we're making a conscious decision, like, okay, the buck stops here because this is what's going to happen like in my family moving forward. But the entire world is kind of in competition for our minds and attention. And so if we're not getting it from if you're not getting the right education at home, then the media is then going to then fill in the blank with whatever's up next. Quentin, go ahead. I think you got another thought.
Yeah, no, just to expound on what you were just saying, right? Like when we look at it from a programmatic perspective, we're also not like you brought up like in other countries that certain the excess of like a soft drink was illegal. It's because in other countries, right, like they actually take the health of their citizens seriously, right, and they also understand that sugar is the most highly addictive substance on the planet. It's more addictive than heroin. It's more addictive than cocaine. It's more addictive than nicotine, right? And yet you put sugar in everything, right? You got sucrose and fructose and high fructose and cane sugar and brown sugar and all of these things that the body can't decipher, right? The body treats it and metabolizes it all the same, and it's addictive, right? And so not only is sugar addictive, but it also suppresses it exacerbates the appetite, right? And so because you're getting these empty calories, all of a sudden 20 minutes later, you want more food, right? And so like we're constantly exacerbating the process over and over and over again, because everything that we're consuming, only, what was it, 10 or 15 years ago that MSG started to become an issue, right? And companies start to take it out of food because they knew it was addictive, right? So it's like we're going through this whole, historically we've been going through this as a society, right? Because we're being fed all of the things that continue to make us sick, and believing that because everybody does it, that it's a cultural thing, right? Like
Quentin, I was about to jump in on that. The culture piece is where we definitely have to take control over, our relationship with most things, especially food, because it's tough when you're out with your friends. They're ordering the ribs, the chicken box, whatever it is, being from Baltimore, and you're like, you know what? I'll take the grilled salmon on the salad. And socially, you just don't even want to have to deal with that. You know what I mean? Or if you're like a flexitarian, where you're like, if I see a good vegetarian option on there, I'm gonna choose that. Nobody wants to have to deal with the levels of pressure socially, even if it's a joke. Like, look, we got enough to deal with out here. Like, let alone like just the cultural expectations of what it looks like to even choose a healthy option. So, and so we have a lot of barriers. We have a lot of layers to try to get through. And Quentin, you said it so eloquently. I'm changing my Uber Eats order right now. I got a whole healthy option. All this food talk has got me going. I just changed it up. It's something special and healthy. Thank you for that.
My man.
Absolutely. Well, let me get Kevin in, and then I'm gonna come to you, Andrew.
You're the only one to call me Kevin. I'm gonna let you get away with it because but I go by Impeccable, which means Mr. Peck is able. So I like the mindset approach. I am 54. I gave up eating fried food in maybe 7 years ago, when a naturopath, which a lot of us don't even hear about as Black men, said he'd rather smoke a cigarette than eat fried food. I said, say what? He said, I thought I had an allergy problem, right? I took a Zyrtec, Claritin, something D, like mostly all through spring and summer. And he said, no, you have a digestive problem. He said, you don't have an allergy problem. You have a digestive problem. Cut down on the gluten. Gluten, people hear gluten. You see stuff. If they really knew what gluten did if you really knew what gluten did, it would probably freak everybody out in the whole world. So they just put it on the bottom of menus. What's gluten free? They're not trying to shock the nation with this thing, but mostly what I found from a book, I'm gonna just share it, and this is just information you can decide what to do with it, called Dear Doctors Don't Lie, where it said that most of our diseases stem from a nutrient deficiency. So my mother used to say, when you know better, you do better. So you got to take the information, right? And then the question is, sometimes you have the information, you know better, but will you do better? They say, okay, let's just drink 8 glasses of water today. Okay. Some people won't even say an affirmation of how good you are as a Black man to yourself every day. So my challenge is, when do you take a little bit of responsibility for yourself? If you're the king, right? Or if you're the king of your home, and you're the leader in your household and in the community, we have to take some kind of responsibility. I mean, iron sharpens iron. We can get around some other brothers. All right, we're gonna walk. All right, I walked today. Did you? Even if I didn't, I know you walked, and I kind of felt bad that I didn't walk. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's just something, because when we're younger, And for the brother to play basketball, you know, we all think we can still do the same move. In our mind, we can still do that same. We can cut to the hole the same way and make the same shot. But when your body tries to duplicate that, you'll find out quickly you are no longer in your teens or early 20s anymore, and you can't make the moves that. So I'm just saying, think about how you can do better. You know, my thing is, when I got the information, they said couch potatoes live longer than athletes. Football players die younger than any athlete because they sweat more, and they typically don't put back in nutrients. You know, when you hear about the football players who drop dead, is because a lot of times they sweating out all of their nutrients. But when they're putting it back in, Gatorade might only have 5. The water they drink, you know, I mean, they're not putting these nutrients in to fight what they need to build the body up. Like Quentin said, everything was here already for us to be healthy about. I mean, healthy with was already created. Everything else is a preservative or something that
Yeah.
you wonder why you go to the bathroom as soon as you go to McDonald's, right? Because it's got all of that stuff in it because they want it to stay good for a few months. It's not like the freshest place might be Five Guys. I don't know. That wasn't a McDonald's or Five Guys commercial, but that's my 2 cents, and I'm sticking with it.
No, impeccable. I think you bring up some really important points, and kind of going back to what we're talking about, these circles of accountability. I think it's a lot easier when you have other people that are in your life that you can that are starting to like espouse some of this. And it's not to say everybody's health journey is going to be a little bit differently. And obviously, right now, if you're just joining, we're having this virtual conversation, a focus on health of Black men, presented by Maryland Health Connection. I really think that, you know, like, who you hang out with matters. And, you know, particularly if you're just starting your journey and you're at a place where you are going to be more susceptible to kind of going on this life path, you may have to fall back. Like, you may not even be able to put yourself in like some of those like social situations. And, and it might be a thing where you have to kind of even while we're in this kind of COVID pandemic situation, uh, connect and really be an accountability with other people until you build up that muscle and build up that those habits, and then you can start to do some of those things that you enjoyed before. But I skipped over Andrew, so I want to go back to you, and then I want to move on to our next question.
Yeah, just one quick point on a couple of things. So I think to the brother Kevin's point, we definitely have to take responsibility. Although there's a myriad of challenges in our neighborhood, the research shows that to eat healthy, it only costs $1.50 more a day. $1.50 more a day is scientific research. It's kind of becoming popular, right? And even in the food desert, right? There's specific things that we need to do to address that. But if someone is, just say, low income and they might qualify for SNAP, those SNAP benefits allow you to buy avocado just as much as they do honey buns, right? So like, I don't, there's not like when you get to the cash register, like you can't buy the avocados, you have to buy the honey buns. So we have to like this is our people, right? So we have to be real about that. And I think also from a cultural standpoint, I never preach or tell our clients and the people that we're working with, like, you can't have the Popeyes, you can't go to Papa John's, you can't. As Jason said, you know, he's at a brunch and he see the brother or the sister with the ribs. Like, you can do that. You just can't do that every day. You can't, like, if there's 27 meals in a week, if 22 of your meals are all like that, like, there's going to be problems. And the interesting thing about that ideology is that men, specifically Black men, won't treat their cars the same way they treat their body. But if you don't treat your body appropriately, you're not going to be alive long enough to take care of your car. And lastly, I would just put a fine point on this, or just a pin on this point, is there are economic realities. If you don't take care of your health and you think it's too costly or it's too hard, you're going to end up paying for meds. So pay for the meds. I mean, pay for the avocado so you don't have to pay for meds, because it's the economic reality.
Listen, pay now. Please, you have pay now or pay later. So it's, I think, very, very great points just to kind of punctuate this conversation. I think, you know, I don't even know. And I think everything that we're talking about kind of plays into it, because Impeccable's talking about take responsibility. We're talking about knowing the history. We're talking about actually making great decisions. And, you know, it all kind of pulls together in a way that allows us to help. Michelle says you're so right, Andrew? And so if you're listening to this right now, again, I'm just going to encourage you, if you're watching live, continue to share this out, tag somebody. Like when he was just talking about, hey, you need to put the honey bun down and put the avocado. If you were thinking of somebody in your mind, go ahead and tag that person into the conversation right now, because this may be the start. And I don't think this, this is a focus on the health of Black men. This isn't the end all be all. This is hopefully going to jumpstart and ignite some conversations today and for the rest of the week and the rest of the month, particularly as we kind of go into these let's call them more calorically dense months ahead that are coming up. But let me go to the next thing, because obviously right now we are still in the midst of this global pandemic. We've really seen this kind of polarization of viewpoints around really important like healthcare concerns, one of which is vaccinations, right? Should I get vaccinated, should I not? And really what that has kind of pushed to the forefront is this idea of information. What information is coming out? Can we trust the information? Who's it by? And we've all heard the term, a confused mind basically does nothing. And so if you getting too much and can't figure out what to do, you probably aren't going to do nothing. And social media has also played a really big critical role in this conversation. Many people rely on Facebook in particular and Twitter to receive their news and information, even more so than traditional news sources like the Afro here. And so one of the things I want to pose to the panel as we move to the next part of this healthcare conversation is, what can we do individually to better educate ourselves on important healthcare issues to make sure that we're making good decisions? Like, what can we do to better educate ourselves and maybe not fall victim to misinformation? Or once we see misinformation, is it our responsibility to correct that? Or what do you all think? And so I'm absolutely open to feedback on this topic as we move forward. And again, if you're watching live, thank you again for joining this conversation. If you have your own questions or just a perspective, feel free to add that in the comments as well. Vernon, I'm coming to you, sir. Oh, you gotta take yourself off of mute one more time.
I rely mainly on the healthcare professionals, like my primary care physician, who gives me information and knows me very well as far as what state my body is in. And so I rely on that. And I also educate myself. There's a lot of things that are online. I visited a site this morning. It was blackdoctor.org. And I think that's a very good site to go to see their perspectives and what are they thinking about this. Because if we consider the source of where we're getting this other information, you're going to end up with your arteries clogged up, your knees are hurting, inflammation throughout your body, and that's all because the source of information you're getting to do what you're doing as far as eating. But to get educated, I think you have to take some initiative yourself, and you have to focus on the professionals and cut out all the other noise.
I'm over here shaking my head, and we had the blackdoctor.org up on the screen. Thank you, Impeccable, for that. I think, yeah, so you just kind of having your go-to resources in addition to your primary care doctor as someone who may be a great, instead of, having necessarily rely on, you saw this claim or this, statistic, you could just kind of have your trusted set of sources. So I think that is awesome, Vernon. Jason, I'm coming to you.
Yeah, I totally support what Mr. Vernon said. Talk to the healthcare professionals. One of the other things I like to do is, I like to be transparent with the people around me that I consider, a part of my core circle. So if I'm experiencing something from a health perspective, I'm not gonna hide that. I'm gonna share it. I'm gonna say, hey, you know what? Yeah, I've been waking up. My knees are hurting. I don't know what's going on. And like Mr. Impeccable was saying earlier, it could be because of some dietary stuff, right? It could be because of gluten, or my body just doesn't process certain meats well, or I should switch something up. So I might be able to get that kind of input from somebody who's experienced that from themselves, or a family member might be able to have shared a story with them, and they can pass that on to me. Then I can go to my primary care doctor and say, hey, this is what I've been experiencing. This is what I'm found out, within my community that's affecting a few people that I know. Should this be a concern of mine? Just so that not from a, of course, they're the end all be all, and there's no like street or community doctor that I'm trying to, play here, but at least it's a starting point, right? And I'm not going in totally unarmed as to what the topic is. So again, just being transparent, all ego aside, I'm not shooting the layup like I was, help me out with this.
Yeah, I woke up one day and I was like 35, and it was just like, oh, that's what I did. I did not know I had a hip. That's amazing. So it absolutely is possible. But I mean, do you guys feel, because I think right now it's just like an onslaught. So sometimes, particularly, and this isn't a conversation necessarily just about vaccines. I got the Maryland Health Connection right here. It says great Pori Vernon. We also have the Find a Doctor tool, which is great. So definitely make sure that you check out that link that was just dropped in the comments, because we want to get you access to the resources. But here's the deal: like, there's so much stuff. There's like a lot of stuff, and I remember I'm gonna quote Charlemagne the God from the Breakfast Club, but only because it's really, really important. I like this quote, impeccable. He says, "Nobody cares about the truth when the lie is more entertaining." And so I feel like the things that aren't necessarily true, they like fly faster than the things that are. It's like a lot harder to get out quality information because it's boring, or it's not as enticing as what the research says, or what is actually happening. And so a lot of the facts that you shared earlier, Quentin, for example, sitting around and trying to tell people that, it's kind of like, oh, well, I just read this, on XYZ website. So I think that's kind of some of the challenges that we're facing, but it's very important to kind of take some of these things into consideration. And so I'm gonna move on, but I really, if you have other thoughts around this topic, for the panel, or for folks that are listening, let us know, because we definitely want to make sure that folks have the ability to get things into the right hand. And I do applaud some of the social media platforms. Now I have starting to see, like, even if you mention something like COVID in a post, they're starting to focus a lot more on providing little tags to send you to official resources, or to flat out flag things, so that you can have at least the opportunity to identify as false or misleading information and make your own decision. I do want to make sure we get to this mental health conversation. And so let me go ahead and jump into that. But actually, before I do, let me just, because I know everybody that's listening right now, and I'm looking at the Facebook comments as well, as people are just kind of excited to see a panel of Black men talking about health in general. And I feel like it could be kind of rare. And so I would love if we could each maybe just go around and share just a little bit about like our own personal care practices for both physical and mental health. Just maybe like one thing that we're doing now, and also one of the challenges that you might have faced along the way. And I can go first. Just in that conversation, because the people that know me, I grew up, I always describe myself as the skinny kid from Baltimore. I was 145 pounds soaking wet all the way up to like 2010, right? And then I started, slowly gaining the weight. And then I woke up one day, again, just like the 35 thing, impeccable. And I was 200 and almost 240 pounds. And I'm pretty tall. I'm 6'2". So, it was okay, but it didn't feel great. And so my own journey has been just kind of figuring out this kind of connection between physical health as well as mental health. I know that Jackie is saying right here, unhealthy men can't lead healthy relationships and healthy families. I absolutely agree. It was one of the things I pushed to the side burner. I remember rolling into work and eating like that. Andrew, earlier when you're talking about, like, you said like 27 meals per week when you add them all up. And I wasn't even thinking about that. So I was eating like the burgers and the fast food and Wendy's. The people at Wendy's knew my name. I was stopping into 7-Eleven on a pretty consistent basis. And over time, that kind of just became a habit. Plus, a lot of the stress just dealing with navigating life. I became like, I guess, a stress eater, and I wasn't even thinking about it. You know, if I'm sitting watching television, trying to decompress from the day, I'm just eating whatever's in front of me. And so part of my journey has been focusing on not just weight loss, but starting to make better decisions. And so I've actually lost 12 pounds in the last 3 to 4 months, and been working out relatively consistently, but it's really in those like daily habits. And so, but one of the challenges that I face, and you know, people have already said it earlier, Quentin, I think you alluded to it, is sugar. Like sugar is like my number one vice. And so, what I've been purposely, with the help of some of my close friends, is trying to make better decisions. And so, one of my friends has me eating, like, if you're going to eat sugar, eat like raw sugar, but kind of, you know, use less of it than you would in other things. I was drinking a bunch of sodas every single week. So I stopped buying sodas like all together. So if I want a soda now, Jason, I gotta go really out of my way. Like I gotta almost show up to night brunch, like just to get a soda. So like those are just some of the things that I've been working on and some of the challenges I face, but I still kind of struggle with that today. So anybody like to go and share any of their you know, struggles, or you know, or even wins as it relates to these things that we're dealing with now?
I guess I could jump in. I think you know, I was diagnosed with severe generalized anxiety disorder, panic disorder, and mild to severe major depressive disorder. I attempted suicide twice. I survived an accidental overdose. I was addicted to prescription pills for 2 years. I had a stomach ulcer when I was 16, right? I also grew up in West Baltimore, Park Heights and Wiley Avenue, right? So a lot of my experiences compounded from not having an outlet, right? Not having the ability to feel my feelings, right? To the humanity of my existence wasn't allotted to me, right? And so that showed itself in a multitude of ways: smoking, drinking, you know, and not doing it occasionally, but very excessively. You know, as well as diet. You know, I didn't grow up believing in, you know, that there was a connection between the food we ate and how we felt, right? There is a food mood connection, and the microbiome, your stomach, your digestion, right? Your microbiome is also your second brain, right? And so what I realized is that anxiety and depression and stress and all of these things, though they may be impacted by our external environment, it is often greatly impacted by what we are consuming on a day-to-day basis, right? And very similar to the statement that was made that an unhealthy man can't lead a healthy family or a healthy life. You know, I think that's true for all of us, right? Like we can't, you know, you can't, if we're going to use the reference of a car, right? If you're going to drive a Phantom, you can't put regular gas in it and then get upset when the engine doesn't work, right? And so, you know, for me, one of the biggest keys wasn't just, you know, acknowledging my disorders. I look at them as blessings. Other people may look at them as disorders. It was acknowledging that, but also being willing to deal with the discomfort of changing it, you know? And so I've adopted meditation routines. I've adopted yoga. And not just yoga in the traditional sense of what it looks like when you Google it, or if you know, go to the search on Instagram and you see a bunch of people hanging upside down, or they got their legs wrapped around their necks, right? But understanding what yoga really is, which is nothing more than the calming of the fluctuations of the mind, which also means that by jogging or riding your bike or skateboarding or walking, right, could technically be considered doing yoga. One of the practices that I've allotted, you know, over the years has been tea, right? Like I have a tea routine first thing in the morning, in the afternoon, as well as at night. right? And not the bag tea, not the stuff that you throw in, boiling cup of water and keep on going that you got, the Tazo you got from Starbucks, right? But the real loose leaf, high quality teas that actually have healing properties naturally, right? While also using that loose leaf experience as an opportunity to connect back to myself, right? Because you can't rush a good quality cup of tea, right? And so we live in a society where in order for us to be successful, we have to speed through life. But it is through speeding through life that we miss all of the necessities, right? And so we have to find these moments in time throughout the day to just come back to self. Give yourself 3 minutes, right? It takes an average of 3 to 5 minutes to steep a good cup of tea. So periodically throughout the day, I'm giving myself 3 to 5 minutes to just come back to myself. And then I have another 10 minutes to consume this delicious, healthy, bountiful cup of tea, right? And so throughout the day, like I'm giving myself everything that I need externally, psychologically, and physically, right? And because I make it a spiritual, experience, now I am connecting to wellness from all different modalities and capacities, right? All in one small experience. So those were some of the things that the wins and victories that I've experienced over my tenure of healing.
Well, thank you so much, first of all, for being so vulnerable, like in your journey, and I can tell why you're making such an impact out here, Quentin. I dive in on these teas for a minute because I'm being educated, impeccable. You said classes in session, so talk to me a little bit, and then I'm gonna come to you, Jason. What's the difference between the tea you're talking about and then the tea at Target? Like, what's going on with and what's the process? So where do you get it from?
Well, I own my own tea company. It's called Equity, formerly Greenhouse Tea Company. It's a tea manufacturer here in Baltimore. That
wasn't set up, by the way. I had no idea, but that was good.
No, yeah, it's all good. No, there aren't a lot of Black-owned tea companies, right? There aren't a lot of Black-owned companies in the CPG beverage space, period, right? Like that's a space that we don't own, right? And so finding a sustainable and healthy alternative, not even alternative, but addition, right? Something that we should include in our lives on a day-to-day basis, making a business out of it was a no-brainer. But the difference is, a lot of the teas that we get in America today that you see on retail shelves are of low quality. They are of low grade, right? They are not produced with full leaf teas, right? The Camellia sinensis plant, it's not the full and complete plant. You're getting dust, you're getting fannings, you're getting broken particles, and then you're getting it put in a bag, right? And that bag, so imagine being a person with a dream and being placed in a small box, right? And then being told that in order for you, right, in order for you to steep, you have to stay in this little box. Well, that box is going to prevent you from being able to grow, to expand, right? That's what these things do, right? These teas, they come in full leaf, they get rolled, they get steamed, they get dried, right? They get compressed, but when hot water hits it, it expands. If I'm in a bag and I'm already broken, how can I expand? I have to stay where I am, right? And so a lot of the teas that we get, they don't have the ability to expand, right? So imagine still being the same person you were 15 years ago because you were placed in this box and never had the ability to expand. That is the difference between the bag teas that you get at Target and the teas that you would get at Equity Company.
Listen,
Bro,
I was
myself
not
as a tea
ready
bag ever.
for the existential metaphor,
Hey,
Jason. I know you.
I'm here for it, brother. Bring it.
Oh man,
go ahead, Jason.
Go ahead, Jason.
Just saying.
Yo, I'm sorry, man. I've never listen. You got the cardigan on. You got a perfect vibe for all the tea talk. Like I've never wanted to hear more about this. I'm a tea bag. Who knew? And it's funny as you were sharing and expressing, your journey. I was trying to think of where it's most valuable for me to share because I just feel like I have I've I have so many different areas that I've had to improve on over my journey that that I didn't know where to start. I mean, first, I think one of the most important is again my relationship with like alcohol. And when I was probably like 26 or 27, I ended up getting diagnosed with gout. Right, so it was a poor diet. You know, I'm eating bad all the time, hitting sub shops, and I'm doing what I think is proper for a diet from a diet standpoint. I'm drinking all the time, and I'm drinking a lot. I'm over consuming, and I'm also going to all of these events, right? Because like socially, there's an expectation to, if you're going to stand out, if you're going to be this popular and fun person, you're going to go to the club, right? You're gonna order a bottle, right? You're probably going to get there 2 hours before the club closes, which means you have to drink this full bottle of whatever you just ordered with the little bit of group that you have with you, right? And that's like that's just an expectation, and everybody's like asking you to do more, like what's wrong with you if you didn't take this shot, like you should be able to drink this, you should be able to handle this. You're not manly enough, to your boys, or even to certain women that you might have around you, they can challenge your manhood for not being able to drink. And with that being said, like that totally caused me to look at what was I doing wrong? How can I avoid the pain that came along with basically a disease that doesn't go away? It's two parts of a disease, right? It's a social disease, and it's actually a physical disease that you never get rid of. And it took me down a path of trying to understand what quality of life meant, right? Like what was I doing to myself that and what kind of decisions could I make to improve my overall quality of life? What was I seeking out of these night experiences, out of being out with my friends and over consuming, that I couldn't find by doing something else? And as somebody who, again, born in Baltimore, like most of us, I don't think we sometimes think we're going to make it past a certain age. So we don't even plan to make to what happens after like 26, 27, 30 years old. We don't have a roadmap. So we just kind of burn out quick. We just overconsume. We do a lot of the things that we think are fun. We do a lot of the things that get us attention or clout. And it ends up taking us down these horrible paths. And luckily, I was able to turn that around. I eat better. I have even though I've worked with liquor companies, spirit companies. I think that's how me and Impeccable met. I just had to get a better control of that and be strong enough to push back on the social kind of expectations. I mean, now I have a drink or two, but it's not the same. I'm not trying to get drunk every night now. From a social perspective, I can have two. We can have a conversation. We can have a meeting. And I can move on, right? It hasn't taken control over who I am and how I interact with other people. So that I think it's incredibly important, because we there's the liquor stores on every corner where we walk past, right? There's a carry out, there's a liquor store, and there's maybe a church, right? But there's not good food, right? So we have to figure out at some point how to have a better conversation about what that looks like for us, and do it quickly.
Well, I think this is a really, really great start, because a lot of times, I mean, it's almost like there are these assumptions that kind of go along with things, and there's no reason that being out having a good time has to even equate to drinking at all. I know somebody put that into the comment, and so like kind of shifting these norms are really, really important, and I think it takes a combination of people who are kind of sharing, like in retrospect, like you're doing, Jason, like in a very vulnerable way, which is why I wanted to make sure this question was in here, because sometimes like from my experience, Jay, like you basically run Baltimore. I know we got a mayor. I know Brandon's doing a great job. It's cool, but socially, you're kind of the mayor. So to hear somebody, with your influence, be able to say that, like, I think that is kind of how we start like the conversation for real. So I really want to make sure. So thank you, Quentin and Jason, for those contributions.
Don't jump us. Look, this is the Afro Network.
Go ahead.
We can go. You know what I'm saying? If you want if it's a time thing, I got you. But if it's not, man, let Vernon chime in. Let Andrew chime in. And I got something to say too on that.
Well, Impeccable, you take it, and then we'll hit Andrew and Vernon.
All right. Well, Man, thanks for sharing. We got to be more transparent in our community because everybody's walk isn't the same. You know what I mean? Everybody's challenge or peer pressure isn't the same, but everybody has a chance to make a decision that can determine their destiny. Now, the question is, when do you decide if I'm going to believe the press that I say about myself, or am I going to believe the press that the world will say about me, that the street sometimes will say about me, that your peers who have low self-esteem will say about you, about people who would use the word haters. Your haters are going to say about you. People usually who talk about people usually are hiding something that's within themselves. But let's get back to health, okay? Which that stems from, because if you don't know what an affirmation is, if you can't say anything good about yourself, what you doing? You know what I'm saying? You have to have at least one good thing to say about yourself. But if every time I talk to you, you have something negative to say about yourself, then you need a new conversation with yourself or with God. You and God need to go have a conversation. I'm not trying to bring religion into it. I know it works for me. I roll with Jesus. He's worked, and I'm sharing that. I share it openly in any form. But you have to have a conversation to get your mindset on the right track. Because before you drink those 8 glasses of water, before you steep that tea, because man, congratulations on the tea. My boy Eric Dotson and his wife got Couples Tea House. So you guys are 2 in Baltimore. You guys need to link up. But you got to get your mind ready to walk if you want to walk, to eat better, if you want to give up the sugar, if you love it. Every time you say the honey bun, I want to go downstairs, put it in the microwave, and eat that honey bun. Every single time, the highlight from Krispy Kreme just kept going on in my brain because it's just, you can hear it and you can get back to, that quench. But not until you, and men, a lot of times we don't want to go to doctors. We don't want to check in on ourselves. But we'll see somebody who will die of cancer. We'll see somebody who has high blood pressure. We'll see somebody who has prostate cancer, or whatever the issues are. But do we bother to change? You know what I mean? When do we go to the dentist, fellas? When the tooth is hurting, and in the middle of the night sometimes, and that toothache is just so excruciating that you can't move. It's just, we have to think about this thing. You know what I mean? And when I learned that book that I told y'all, Dear Doctors Don't Lie, that it's nutrients, it's 90 essential nutrients or something, and I needed them every day. I put them in this bottle, I shake them up, and I drink it all day long, because you're not getting it from your food. You're not getting it from your vegetables, because the minerals in the earth don't have the nutrients like they used to have before, like back in the day. So you got to get them from somewhere, or the engine light's going to come on, like some brother said about the car, and you taking care of your car. When the engine light come on, you go get it checked out. When our engine light comes on, we just, we tough it out. And even mentally, we don't want to talk to anybody. We don't want to share with anybody about, because you have a image that you're trying to keep up with, or you trying to front, but you really just fronting on yourself. So at the end of the day, they boxing. My father said they folding up a lot of people at a Vaughn funeral home, my funeral home. They'll fold you up neatly in a little program, and we'll have a service and we'll be sad. But we can also choose to take just a step to think about doing something. Don't try to go hard and do 100 things in one day. Just do one thing tomorrow. If you say I'm gonna drink more, if you just Google what drinking water will do, I don't care if you never do any exercise at all. Google what drinking water. Your back's gonna feel better. Your digestion's gonna feel better. Just start with one thing, man. Listen, we all we got, and the ladies need us, fellas. The ladies said it. We are all we got. Vernon.
Absolutely. I want to just co-sign real quick, because what you said, impeccable, is really, really powerful. And I think when we're talking about going to the doctor, and I think one of the things that I could offer is that sometimes if we can put things off, but until things actually show up on our calendar, it probably won't get done. And so if you got to go ahead and schedule it, because when you were talking about the dentist, You know, I know I got a dentist appointment in November because I just saw it on my calendar a little bit ago. It wasn't on the calendar. I would never go. Like a year goes by really fast. 5 years goes by really, really fast. And so I would say, I would just encourage you, if anyone listening, uh, Black men listening, go ahead and schedule it. And then if we have a lot of Black women listening to this conversation too, so you can lovingly either schedule on their behalf or, you know, make sure that they get it done. So let me go to Vernon. And then if you're just listening or you're just tuning in, we're talking specifically about specific ways that we can actually improve the health of Black men. So I'm really, really excited about this conversation. But we're going to go to Vernon really quickly, and then Andrew, we'll come back to you.
Yes, Brian. I in my 40s and my 50s, I thought I was still invincible. I was still playing tennis, 4 or 5 times a week, and I was, just excited about doing things and enjoying my family. And then starting in the 60s, my body started to break down. I had 2 hip replacements. I need 2 knee replacements now. And so what that made me do is just focus more on my health. You just have to focus on yourself and find out what's out there that will take care of your health concerns. And that's going to be doctors, that's going to be supplements, as somebody alluded to, taking supplements. Impeccable did that. And Quentin, I love a good cup of tea. So I'm definitely stopping by. But, you just need to start focusing on your health and making those appointments. And when you make those appointments, get the most out of them. Bring something to the table with your appointments. Bring all your medication that you're taking. Bring it in, doctors would always ask you a question. I have this pain here. Well, how long have you had it? I don't know. I've had it, but you need to be specific when you are communicating with your healthcare provider, and so they can better advise you on what you need to do. So my concern at this point in my life is the focus, put the focus on my health more. And I've got 5 grandkids that I'd like to see them all graduate from high school, and so it would be great that the youngest one is 3, I think. And so he's got a ways, and I want to be there. So I know I need to focus.
Very good. Very good. Yeah. I really love what you said about tracking and keeping, being able to have more informed conversations with our healthcare provider, because I mean, let's be honest. I've been in situations where I go in for like a checkup, and that checkup may be like 15, 20 minutes, and how you going to catch up a year's worth of stuff in like 15? So something, if you don't bring it up in that session, it may never get brought up, So I think that's so important. Andrew, let me come to you as we kind of close out this portion of the conversation. And just as a reminder to anybody listening right now, if you do have a question, we are going to take a few minutes to answer a couple questions here. And so we really want to make sure to get to some of those. So if you do have a question for us on anything that you heard so far, feel free to drop it in, as well as make sure that we can get to as many of those as possible. But Andrew, I will come to you next, sir.
Yeah, Brian, can you just restate the question too? I want to make sure I provide a material response.
Yeah, absolutely. So we really are just kind of sharing a little bit about our own personal care practices. So it could be around mental or physical health,
Yep.
And just maybe some of the challenges you faced along the way to getting there.
Yeah, so for me, I think I'm like being a former athlete. I live my life on a schedule. So 6:30 in the morning, doing devotion, and I really start with mental, and then I go to physical. So I work out immediately after, and then from there I go to more physical. So eating the right things. So typically like to have beets. My wife makes this probiotic yogurt and blueberries and bananas and just real food, right? Put that in the smoothie, and then I eat various meals throughout the day. But I think from a so that's like a self-care, like being on a schedule, having specific times when you plan to do things, I think is hugely important, because the cares of the world come at all of us each and every day. And so you have to prioritize these things, or else they won't get done. From a self-care standpoint, this may sound heretical, but I do, we talk about health, but I do, we're keeping it real, right? We're on the Afro Network, right? Are we still on the Afro Network? Okay, cool. So for me, what I found beneficial, and again, like, it's just, everyone has a vice. I like to have, a cigar every now and then, right? Because one of the things that a cigar does is similar to the brother said about tea, is that mental relaxation, like the therapeutic nature to be able to just have conversations with with people. Like, that's one of the things that I like to do. I try to moderation, right? And take breaks and fast and do those things. But I think that's something that's beneficial. But then also, or lastly, taking the Sabbath. Like, I'm not bringing in a religious context, although I do believe in the same thing as Brother Jason. However, I think regardless of your faith belief, I believe that everyone should have a Sabbath. Like, you should take one day off a week to not do not think about work, not think about your problems that you can't control. That's another self-care. Control. My coach used to always tell me, control the controllables. You can't control if someone is thinking illogical, right? You can think logical, and you can handle how you respond to the illogical nature of what that you're hearing, right? And so I think a combination of those things, like eating healthy, right? So my vices give me my healthy lifestyle, give me an opportunity to have a couple of cheap vices, right? Drinking, we talked about drinking too. So drinking in moderation. Not going on a faith tip again, but I'll quote a book, right? Even in the Bible, right? If you go read like Psalms 104:15, like, the Creator made wine to gladden people's heart. So there's a sense of what alcohol is supposed to do if you enjoy it responsibly. But someone said on the panel, we like to turn up, but then, like, we turn up, and then, like, there's never been a good time after our drunkenness or our, like, throwing up where we're like, yeah, I want to do that again, even though we keep falling back into our vomit, no pun intended. So moderation, get on a schedule, have something that, that might not be as good for you. Like, it might not be a cigar. Maybe it's Popeyes, right? Like, I don't eat fast food. I don't eat sugars. I don't do any of those things, right? And so, like, that's my one thing. So find that one thing that can bring some comfort in moderation. And then lastly, I think regardless of your religious belief, having some time to have introspection and mental mindfulness is very advantageous to living a long and healthy life.
And I think one of the, as you said, mindfulness to close it out, I think one of the things that is kind of reoccurring in the theme as we have this conversation tonight has been that, we could get on autopilot in life really quickly, eating the same things, just letting life just kind of dictate things, or we could take control, slow down the speed up. And I love what you said, Impeccable, also about, this doesn't all have to happen tomorrow, and some of it may not have to happen at all. Andrew's talking about, I don't eat sugar. Bro, how do you do that? Like, I'm looking at my kitchen like
honey. So I use raw organic honey. I use honey for like everything that requires sugar. I use honey, organic vanilla extract, and real cinnamon, not like mixed cinnamon. You mix those three ingredients together, you can sweeten any meal you want. You don't need sugar. So
honey is healthier than it, because there's a lot of different types of sweet. There's like agave.
That's a high fructose corn syrup honey, like real raw organic natural. Hey, Brother Quentin, he probably is more astute on this than I am. So go ahead, school him up, because I'm all about the herbal teas as well. I got like all the stuff, and I'm going to be ordering some from your company as well.
Yeah, let's make that happen. We're going to connect offline and make it all happen. Yeah. So from the honey, it's interesting because I'm the same way. I use raw, local, organic honey. It's not the stuff that you get in like the little plastic bear, right? Because that's not real. That is high fructose corn syrup. Don't let them fool you. But raw organic honey actually has healing properties. Even for someone, I think someone spoke earlier about allergies. I think it was Mr. Impeccable. He was talking about allergies, right? And, he had to reduce gluten out of his diet. I've done the same thing, right? Gluten is a natural inflammatory, and most of us have an intolerance to it. The same thing with like dairy, with milk, right? But with honey, essentially what's happening, especially for people who suffer with allergies, like the same pollen, right, that we are allergic to, the same allergens that we are allergic to, these bees are actually making honey out of it, especially if you keep it local. And so by consuming it on a day-to-day basis, it's the equivalent, a natural version of like taking a flu shot, because the body actually starts to build up an immunity to it, right, to all of these pollens and these allergens, right? And it actually helps the body. So yes, in moderation, as Brother Andrew said, because the body will not process the honey in the exact same way as it will, some kind of sugary product, right? And then when you get natural, raw, organic honey, some companies actually provide pieces of the honeycomb, which are actually consumable, and it acts almost like a fiber. Right. And so I think the biggest difference between drinking apple juice versus eating an apple is the soluble fiber that actually prevents the body from metabolizing that sugar too quickly. Right. Which then if you consume it, if it metabolizes too quickly, the body's like, yo, this is just sugar. It's going to treat it the exact same way. But having that fiber actually allows the body to process it slowly. So it's actually a slow release over a period of time. Right. And then the other thing, in addition to the sugar, in addition to the honey, it's not a sweetener, but from a protein perspective, right? Bee pollen, right, actually has the highest concentration of protein, right? And so if you're going to start your day with a smoothie and you add a little bit of honey and then add a little bit of bee pollen on top of your banana and your pineapple and your spinach and whatever else you choose to throw in it, like you've just consumed an entire meal, right, first thing in the morning, or using it as a replacement, so to speak, like throughout the day. And so I use honey in all of our teas, even our ready to drink teas, which will be launching in 2022, just FYI. But I firmly believe in using honey as an alternative to any other sweetener, above agave, above stevia, which is the new craze again, which I don't understand because it's been linked to cancer, above cane sugar, cane syrup, cane juice, anything with cane in it, right? Honey for the win 100% of the time.
Hey, can I add one last thing? Even like we're talking about alcohol, right? Like even mixing, your drinks, like my wife makes a little cocktail with honey, real lemons, and real limes, right? And like that, like even if you're drinking, sorry, my daughter is acting like a 4.5-year-old. So if you mix those ingredients, like even when you're drinking, like put good stuff in, even your liberties, right? And so I just wanted to add that to it.
No, Paul, this is night school. Listen to me.
You can also put honey on your honey if you want to get it started. Okay. We need that men's health too, guys. Hey, hello, somebody. Anyway, go ahead.
My wife's over here.
I am staying away from that. But yes, listen, impeccable. Andrew, Jason, Vernon, and Quentin, I just want to thank you for this part of the conversation, especially because I know sometimes it takes a lot to kind of air out our laundry and just kind of be vulnerable. But I do believe it's kind of the beginning steps of what it actually takes. And so we're checking now to see if there's any questions that we want to bring up before we start to wind out this conversation. Before we do, I do want to kick it to Vernon for a moment, because we are coming up, as I mentioned, in the open enrollment period in Maryland. And so if you're not familiar with that is, and you might be thinking, okay, well, what does that mean, etc. I definitely want to make sure that we have some information to be able to take advantage of this time period, because it's only actually going to be open from November 1st through December 15th. And so, Vernon, do you want to kind of touch on what open enrollment is, and then also what people should or could be doing during this time to kind of take advantage of it?
Yes, I'd like to expound on it. The dates that we have for open enrollment is November the 1st through January 2022, January 15th, 2022. So those are important dates. When I was doing the Navigator enrolling, I would always get people come in a day later than the close date. And it's almost impossible to get enrolled. So we need to pay attention to the dates. So Prince George's County Connect, it was a program with the Department of Social Services. And we've exceeded our annual targets every year since the 2014, when the Affordable Care Act went into place, or some of us like to call Obamacare. So there's three things that I want to talk about as far as the Maryland Health Connection. One is the financial help that you're going to get, what's covered, and then again, go over the open enrollment. Right now, because of the pandemic, we have been doing a lot of virtual support, but at this point now, we're also doing in person. And so Maryland Health Connection is the only place Marylanders can go to get financial help to pay for their health plan. Almost 9 out of 10 enrolled have savings. And with the Maryland Health Connection, it is a marketplace for consumers and participants to select their plans and who they want to cover them. And we have about 7 managed care organizations that we call them: Priority Partners, Care First, Blue Cross Shield, United Healthcare, Aetna, AmeriGroup, Jai Medical Systems, Kaiser Permanente, Maryland Physicians, and MedStar Family Choice. So though you have a lot of selections for once you get enrolled. There's also the website, marylandhealthconnect.gov, and you can find out step by step how you enroll in it. But if you need our assistance, you can either call us or go on to the website and you'll be directed. Now, there's free and low cost coverage. There's Medicaid, or Maryland Children's Health Program. It's an abbreviation for MCHIP. And so that's basically no cost insurance, or very low cost for your coverage. And the Maryland Health Connection even has the ability to help immigrant families. But you have to bring in the correct documentation. We have there's a green card, permanent resident card, we call it, that you need to bring in, and some other documentation, and you can get enrolled in a health plan. So what's covered? Well, there's 10 essential benefits. One is preventive care. Second is doctor visits. Next is hospitalization, emergency care, maternity and newborn care, pediatric care, including dental and vision benefits. We have prescription drugs, laboratory tests, mental health care, and substance use disorder treatment. So you have the full package with the Maryland Health Connection. And when you have somebody guiding you along, navigating you along to, we have no money in the game as far as leaning you toward any one of those managed care organizations. We try to fit those organizations to what you need the most. So the open enrollment again is November 1st, 2021 through January 15, 2022. Now, there's certain circumstances that you're not going to be able to fit in that enrollment period. Something, you may have a life-changing event. And a life-changing event is you lose your job-based coverage, or you get married, or you get divorced, or you're moving to Maryland. And for the younger generation, those are turning 26, you have to get off of your parents' insurance so you can go on your own. And then when your COBRA coverage ends. So these are the highlight of the things that for open enrollment. Now, also, when you are ready to enroll, you have to have your photo ID, your social security number, your immigration citizenship information, pay stubs, or your W-2 wage and tax statement, and policy numbers for insurance that you may have already had and you're no longer using. So it's a great tool. And I've worked with so many people who, when they sit at the desk and they realize that they can get insurance, some of them cry, they get emotional because it's something that they need and it's something that they've not been able to get through other avenues. So I hats off to Maryland Health Connection and its ability to provide this insurance and to give you the assistance while they're doing that.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Vernon. I really, again, just want to applaud you as well as all the panelists and Maryland Health Connection for this, because we've been able to have a holistic conversation, and I think we're talking about, this has been a focus on the health of Black men, and so we have to look at the entire conversation. We are, from the time we're born to the time we leave, we're going to be making decisions about how we live. We've talked about everything from affirmations to tea to making better decisions on how to manage, our stress and all of these different things. And so when we get to our healthcare provider, which again could be a very difficult process, which is why I'm glad that we have partners like Maryland Health Connection to be able to do this. But the thing is that we can't rely on our doctors to be magicians. Like, we have to take accountability to be as best as we can. And so then we do have to reach out to healthcare providers. They are doing the preventative maintenance and the things that you mentioned, Vernon, and they're not, having to necessarily fix us. They're guiding us to having a better, more holistic, quality life experience. And so I just want to thank each of the panelists again. You all shared so much valuable information, context. Make sure that you follow each of them. And then I know somebody said, is there a part two? I'm not going to speak on that, but what I will encourage is that this not be the end of the conversation. The part two to this conversation should be everyone who is listening, again, right now, live on a replay, continuing this conversation in your household. That should be the part two. Going and utilizing the resources that we're sharing right now from Maryland Health Connection.gov and the other resources, and making sure that something happens coming out of this. I'm also going to encourage each of you to follow Maryland Connect on social media. Be sure to turn on those notifications too, so that you can actually see, because they're always sending out helpful information, particularly as we're going into open enrollment, which again, November 1st is when that's coming up. And so if you're needing healthcare, and I was in this position 2 years ago, and I would not have insurance right now if it wasn't, if it was not for this resource. Definitely make sure that you do that. And so Maryland Connect on social media, on Twitter and Instagram, turn on notifications, make sure that you stay part of the conversation. But I want to give a special thank you again to Maryland Health Connection for sponsoring this important conversation. I want to thank the Afro. Impeccable. Y'all are doing amazing work over there. Thank you for having this platform. Thank you for creating a space where we can have these type of conversations openly and candidly. And to each of our panelists, listen, Quentin, Andrew, Jason, and Vernon, impeccable. Thank you for just sharing of your knowledge, your expertise. And I'm looking forward to continuing the dialogue in my own household as well. So we are wrapping up. Thank you again. Continue to follow Maryland Health Connection, and we will see you next time. Have a great evening.